Hey, everybody, and welcome to Learning from Smart People. I am your host. My name's Rob Oliver, and I am super excited to be here today. There are no guests today, and today's it's a different day. I'm doing a live stream version of the podcast. It's going out on YouTube, it's going out on Facebook, and it will be uploaded to all of my usual podcast places. But this week, today is the last day of the year, December 31st, and I thought the only fitting thing to do would be to do a year in review, to take a look back at exactly where we have come since the very first episode of Learning from Smart People aired back, I can't believe it, but it was back on April the 14th. So we have had up to date 75 episodes. This is episode number 76. And there have been 72 different guests. There has actually been one guest host in the middle of all of that. And we've had guests from Europe, Africa, North America, Central America, and South America. So it's covered all kinds of places. And the guests have been anything from professors, managers, CFOs, CEOs, entrepreneurs, podcasters, speakers, coaches, marketers, survivors, authors, trainers, educators, counselors, a mom, YouTubers, you name it. We've had just a ton of people on here. And I will say that it's an amazing thing to me, but I have learned from every single guest that I've had on here. Just some of them I've learned a lot from. Some of them I picked up just a couple nuggets from, but every single episode has been a learning experience for me. And it's a reminder to me of going back, even just to episode number 1, the idea was this. I can learn from every single person in the world because there's something that they know more about than I do. And if I'm willing to just listen and to ask questions, they will share that wisdom with me. So it's been a great experience for me. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to take the next little bit and I'm going to go through every single episode that we've had this year and just share something about, first of all, to share who was on the episode, what the episode was about, and something that I took away from it. So episode number 1 was just the intro. It was me, and it was really a reminder to me of what this was all about. The reality is this. I had always wanted to do a podcast. Well, not always wanted to do a podcast, but I wanted to do a podcast for a long time. I was inspired by a guy named Thom Singer, who came and spoke at the National Speakers Association Pittsburgh chapter back in January of 2020. And I was like, yes, I want to do this, but I just don't have the time. And then COVID struck. My speaking engagements kind of dropped off. And it was like, okay, you know what? Now I have all this time, and this is a great opportunity for it. So what do I want to do? I want to learn. I enjoy learning, and I think that we can all learn, so bring folks in. And that's really where we started. Episode 1, just my intro of, hey, I want to learn, and I hope if you want to learn, you can join me for this experience. Episode 2, we brought in my friend Ron Swagger, who is the sales manager and has since then been promoted to the general manager for Riverview Chevrolet here in the Pittsburgh area. And he was talking about price versus value. And the lesson that I got out of it is price is what you pay, value is what you receive. And really, when people are looking to purchase something, when people are looking at your product or your service or whatever it is that you're offering, so many times price is the obstacle, but when they begin to understand what the value is that they're receiving, that's what makes all the difference. They want to purchase the value, and the price is then what is justified by what they're receiving. Episode 3 was my friend Mike Warnell. He's a truck driver, and I wasn't really sure. He said to me, like, I'm not really smart. I don't know what I'm going to share. But we came on and we talked about problem solving. And the lesson that I got out of Mike was pretty interesting. He said during the course of the interview that the best way to solve problems is to anticipate them and prevent them from happening. I thought, really, that's a remarkable lesson to think about. What are the issues that are out there? What are the things that can happen? And how do we prevent them so that we don't have the problems in the first place? Episode 4, Bob Pakinovsky came on, talked about the black tie experience. And during the course of his interview, he mentioned this concept of creating an organizational expectation of excellence, in which it is just the culture of the organization that nothing short of your absolute best is going to be enough. Episode 5, MJ Calloway came on, and she talked about the idea of bouncing up when you experience adversity. And I loved it. It was a concept, most of us want to bounce back. And she said, no, bouncing back is just getting you back to where you were. And when we go through difficult experiences, it's an opportunity for growth, and we can bounce up and be in a better place than we were when we started. Episode 6, Josh Smith came on, talked about anxiety. And it was really, to me, it was a practical look at anxiety. It's something that it's part of life. And I really appreciated his willingness to open up about his own experiences with anxiety. And then really, I thought the practical guidance that he gave in that episode as to how to deal with anxiety is something that we can all benefit from. Episode 7, Brandon McCall, the principal of Cornerstone Christian Preparatory Academy here in the Pittsburgh area, came on, and we talked about education. And I thought it was really interesting to hear him talk about a non-traditional look at what education really is. One of the tips that I came away from that episode with was the importance of writing and just getting your thoughts on paper and being able to express yourself, and how important that was, and his encouragement to do some writing. Even if you're not a student, it's something that you can benefit from. Episode 8 was Coach Monique, and she was looking at how to create change in your life. And she shared on there her delete technique. And I thought it was really a novel way to think about getting rid of things or making change in your life. Kind of the way on your computer you delete something and it goes to the trash can, and it's not until you empty that trash can, empty the recycle bin, that it really goes away. So it's a double delete method of making change in your life. Episode 9 marked something really interesting. We went international. I had Katie Woodland on, and she was talking about how your future is not defined by your past. One of the concepts that she mentioned, though, on that episode was that mental health and physical health are so different, because in your physical health, you're looking at, you broke your arm or you had something go wrong like that. And in that, it's something that, you look at and it's really tangible. But when it comes to mental health, it is not handled in the same way. It's a very different situation. I thought it was a great distinction to make. Episode 10, we turned double digits, and my guest was Gaynor Melky. And she talked about building a PR plan. And she talked about PR, public relations. And one of the things that she was able to include in her episode, including what she talked about, was ways to find journalists and to build relationships with them. And she shared a couple PR tools on there, which I actually am using still today, even though we're over 6 months past that. So it was a pretty cool way to look at PR and to grow from that. Episode 11, Al Condalucci came on and talked about social capital, using the principles of financial investing to look at our relationships. I thought it was really cool, especially in terms of with COVID going on and everything that was happening there. He was saying, okay, loneliness is on the increase. Social isolation is on the increase. How do we work on that? How do we combat that? And really, in episode 11, he was covering how to build relationships yourself. So how to find places where you can build relationships so that that loneliness and that isolation is being dealt with, and you're not feeling quite so alone. You're actually building up the relationships and finding people that have things in common with you. Episode 12, we had on Tom Crea, who is a former Black Hawk pilot, and he was talking about servant leadership. And I think one of the valuable lessons that he said is that leadership is not about you, it's about your people. And I thought that's really cool. So many times leaders are about themselves. It's about an ego thing. Look how many people I have. Look how many followers I have, whatever it is. But he says, no, it's about serving your people. And that's what it really takes to be an effective leader, and especially to be a servant leader. Episode 13 brought in Marion Nielsen, and Joanne Peterson, and they were talking about minority-owned businesses and how to get that business certified. There was a number of different certifications that are out there. As a matter of fact, as a result of that interview, I was connected with them and ended up getting my motivational speaking business certified as a disability-owned business enterprise, which was a really cool thing. It is something that it's one more element of credentialing that I have, and it's opened up some opportunities. And it's just a really cool thing to have. They're available for just about every minority that you can think of. And it's something that it will set your business apart and open up some doors for you in growing your business. Episode 14, I had Katie Newell on, and she talked about that idea of a new normal. She has 2 children, and the youngest of which has a lot of allergies. And so now she's creating something that's different. She's creating she's dealing with a new sense of what normal is. I thought it was such an appropriate message based on what's going on with COVID and with everything that's going on there. And in that, she was saying that you can't compare the new normal to the old normal. And I guess the analogy that she used was ice cream. Okay, you have dairy-free, soy-free, all of the different things that you're taking out of the ice cream. And if you compare it directly to what you're used to in ice cream, it's not going to compare. But if you look at it as a new flavor experience, it's okay. It's not going to be something that compares well, but it could be something that is enjoyable nonetheless. Episode 15, we had Adam Mendler, and Adam was talking about how he's got a podcast, and it's called 30-Minute Mentors, and his concept was mini mentors and how we can learn from everyone, how we can learn from podcasts, we can learn from YouTube videos. There are just a number of ways that we can learn, and they are all given to us by mini mentors. Episode 16, Doug Cornfield came on, and he was talking about, he's an author of a children's book, and he is taking the proceeds from that children's book and doing great things with them. He mentioned one of the greatest, mostly unknown stories in all of sports about his business partner, a guy named Dave Clark, who pitched in the majors, even though he has crutches. Just a tremendous story. And it talked about really taking something that you're passionate about and putting it into action and making an impact with that. Episode 17 was Mandy Moon, and she talked about how to tell your story and how to build your business by sharing the story of you and how your business came into being. There were 2 things that really stood out for me in that episode, and you've got to go back and listen to it, but there are 3 types of stories that she encourages business owners to tell, and then she also gave us tips for how to cultivate new stories as well. Episode 18 was Laura Briggs. She was talking about freelance writing and how to either use that as a side hustle or as a career. One of the really important things that I thought she shared was the personality traits that are important for being able to do freelance writing and how to make that happen. And so that it works out as a good thing. Episode 19 was Danny Howe, and she talked about becoming a contributor to online publications like Huffington Post and Medium and just different places like that. And really, it was, to me, an outside-the-box look at a whole different perspective on PR. And I thought it was really cool and a great learning experience. Episode 20 was Dar Dixon. And I do have to say, as a shout out to Dar, I just got his Christmas card the other day, which was really cool. And I'm glad that we connected. Dar talked about how he handled adversity and he built resilience. And it was a personal story. He started off having to escape the revolution in Iran. Then he went through dealing with all kinds of bigotry and ended up joining a cult. And eventually, through all of those experiences, ends up as a actor in Hollywood. And it was just a really important lesson to see how things built on a path of resiliency and a way of just coming back and becoming something fantastic. Episode 21 was Chris Ippolito. He was also a podcaster, and he shared what he had learned from the interviews that he was doing on his podcast. But I really was impressed with his concept of the importance of leaving a legacy. Episode 22 was Lauren Schieffer, and she's the Colonel's daughter. She had kernels of wisdom. And one of the things that she shared with me on that episode was the difference between success and significance. And I really took that to heart. I really think it's an important thing. So many times we are looking for success, and what we should be looking for is significance. Episode 23, we had the Stakopoulos family on, and they were talking about running a business as a family. They were two sisters and their daughter, and they were all working together. And also the importance of sharing your culture, sharing your past, and how that can be something that really drives a business. Episode 24, I had Homestead Jen and Homestead Phil talking about Rent the Chicken. And it was a great interview, such an interesting thing. And it was one of those ways in which you have a couple who is thinking outside the box and creating such a unique business. I thought it was very something we could all learn from. Episode 25, it was a milestone for me, and we flipped the script. Instead of me interviewing someone else, Josh, my son, came on and he interviewed me, and we talked about storytelling and writing and the power of storytelling. And it was an opportunity to share just the impact of being a published author. And it was, I hope that others were able to learn from that and be inspired that if they've got a book in them, that it's not that difficult. And my encouragement from that was, if you're interested in creating a book, if you're interested in putting yourself out there, reach out to me, and I'm glad to work with you and help you with that. Episode 26 was Rick Jordan. He is also a podcaster. He's the host of All In with Rick Jordan. And he talked about how he went from just a really dark place in his life, making $900 a month, getting laid off from his job. And he ends up then from there building a business that is doing over $10 million a year, and really gave some guidance on how to grow your business in a powerful and real practical way. Episode 27 was Matt Clark, and he came on to talk about LinkedIn and how to use LinkedIn to build your business. Really interesting to me. He talked about building business relationships and how he has a Rainmaker system to build your business, but creating relationships is what he's all about instead of focusing on sales. Great stuff. Episode 28 was Nick Davies, and he talked about his personal journey of being in the financial field, realizing that wasn't what he wanted to do, end up becoming a world traveler. And in all of that, he learned the importance of having a guide or a coach to bring you along the way and to help you with that. And I thought it was really cool how he is offering what he has learned as a way to help other people. Episode 29, Tim Brandt from Brandt's Driving School talked about creating a niche business and how he has become the go-to expert in his field in this area. And it's really something that we can all do, find our niche and really become the expert in that area. Episode 30 was the first time we had any repeat guests. Joanne Peterson and Marion Nielsen came back, and they brought with them Madonna Long and talked about 360 Access, a way of making sure that businesses are accessible, and how they're rolling out that app. Check that out as well. It was very interesting. Then we got into a little bit of a strange situation, and for the next little bit, we had me on as a talking head, really, just giving some thoughts. Episode 31 was about more than mere survival, and my favorite story in all of that was the story of the lodgepole pine, and the fact that adversity is not just an opportunity for growth, but adversity sometimes can force growth, which is fantastic. Episode 32, I talked about how change happens. Change is something that is inevitable. It's going to be there, but change is neither good nor bad. How we react to it is ultimately what determines whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. Episode 33, I had Gavin Preston, and he talked about the idea of surviving and thriving. He had a system, a Strive system, STRIVE, which you'll have to check out the episode to get all of that. But one of the things that came out of his episode was his concept of developing an identity statement as to who you are. Episode 34, it was back to me, and I talked all about perspective. And one of the things that I shared in there that really made me smile was the idea of Cinderella, and how Cinderella is so annoying, right? To her stepsisters and to her stepmom, instead of her being the hero of the story, she's the one that she gets away with everything and everything just works out for her. And it's all about perspective and all about how you see things. Episode 35, I had on Sebastian Rusk. He was talking about podcasting and shared some thoughts on hosting and distribution and really the importance of, if you're going to do a podcast, find out your why. Why are you doing it before you start? And that's really going to be your guiding principle. Episode 36, T.W. Brock came on and talked about his crusade for justice. I really appreciated his thoughts on how we can move forward on racial justice today. Episode 37 was Scott Harward, and I was really worried about this episode because I thought, you know what, I'm not sure how interesting this is going to be. He's talking about data-driven marketing, and yet through all of it, I thought he gave us some really interesting things. He defined what he called KPI, the key performance indicators, and how to know what are the good ones and how to avoid the fake ones. Episode 38, Casey Jordan came on, and she was talking about handling adversity. She's somebody that she was in the military and experienced a roadside bomb in Iraq. She came back and was dealing with the difficulty and adversity of infertility. And one of the things that she said was, how do you turn adversity into a positive? And I thought that's really something we could all benefit from if we're willing to do that. Episode 39, Serafina Arthur Williams came on to talk about intentional simplicity. And she talked about a concept I had never considered before, and that is meme therapy. Her Instagram, she is using it as a way to do, to share things that are therapeutic for her followers on Instagram. So just a concept that was outside the box for me. Episode 40, I had Eric Barkley from Tugboat Coffee, and he was talking about running a small B2B company. And what I really got out of his episode was that idea of finding your niche and doing what you do and doing it well and not expanding outside of that. They do coffee. They don't have a retail store. They don't have, a cafe or anything. That's all outside the purveyance. They are a business to business entity, and that's what they do. And that's what they do well. Episode 41, John DeSantis came on, and again, we revisited that concept of servant leadership. And in the process of what we talked about, he mentioned this: you don't have to wait for a pandemic to start something great. And I thought that was such an important point, that in all of this, what we can do is we can find out what is it that we want to do, and we don't have to wait for someone or something to push us to do it. Episode 42, Nathan Todd came on and talked about labels. As a person with a disability, he felt that there were a number of labels that had been put on him. And he said, as we go through life, we have to realize that no label that is stuck on us can define us. And it's really freeing as an individual to say, okay, other people may have said this about me. Other people may have said this is who I am, but I don't accept that. And I'm going to move forward. Episode 43, Mark Newsom came on, and we talked about non-traditional marketing strategies. And really, one of the things that I thought was important was talking about how you build relationships with other businesses and you can provide referrals for each other. Episode 44 was one that was full of energy. Joanna Vargas, the Get Up girl, came on, and she talked about the bulletproof mindset, which absolutely blew my mind. Her concept was a bulletproof vest is not going to prevent the pain of getting shot. If we get shot, even though we have a bulletproof vest on, it's going to hurt. It may knock us down, but it's building that mindset that says, okay, it hurt, it knocked us down, but it didn't kill us. We're going to get up and keep moving. Episode 45 was Jen Abel, and she talked about developing sales strategies. And one of the interesting things that she shared in there was how sales skills apply to every single facet of our lives. Episode 46 was Caitlin Hamilton. She's all about systems and strategies for automating your business. And one of the things that she said is people don't realize just how much a lack of organization is holding them back from growth. Episode 47, Bonnie Burkett came on and talked about the college cost crisis. And she really shared with us, the idea of reverse engineering your college degree, finding out where you want to go, how many credits you need, and then how can you How can you get the support that you need to get to where you want to be? Brilliant, brilliant concept. And her book is a great read. Episode 48, Matt Shalava came on. He is a young entrepreneur who he developed a side hustle in which he's making almost as much with his side hustle as he is with his regular full-time job, which is absolutely incredible. And it's an amazing thing to me. He is doing reselling and shared a lot of insights into how you can also become a reseller, and it can be something that either is supplemental income or can become a full-time business for you. Episode 49, Brian Wagner came on. He's also a podcaster and talked about blind spots and mentioned why blind spots aren't necessarily always a bad thing. Episode 50 was my friend Joe Mull. And I mean, it was one of those amazing things to me. Episode 50, like, how did we get that far already? I felt like I had just been getting started. But Joe Mull came on to talk about be a better boss now. And in that discussion, he mentioned how to match your leadership style to what your people need. And I thought that was a really cool thing in which it's not about making them adapt to your style. It's actually about adapting your style to what your people need. Episode 51 was Kuda Biza, and he was talking about social entrepreneurship, the power of entrepreneurship. And he has taken the power of entrepreneurship to address two worldwide issues, to address hunger and to address education. And I thought that was really an amazing concept. Episode 52, the episode that wasn't. You will not find episode 52 anywhere. It was supposed to be an episode in which I looked back over 6 months to say exactly what had happened. Somehow it never came to fruition. So what you're listening to right now is both episode 52 and episode 76. Episode 53 was Craig Daly, and he talked about growing your business. And in there, he mentioned this interesting fact. 50% of small businesses fail in the first year. And we talked about why. Episode 54, Corby Mitlide came on and talked about cleaning out your life closet. In there, she also talked about the concept of thinking like a Martian, how we need to give up on our preconceived notions and just to look at things for what they are and kind of think about them from a non-traditional outsider's perspective. Episode 55, April Elaine Powell came on, talked about what it's like to be an entrepreneur as a female. And in there, she reminded us life is not easy and life is not fair, but it doesn't change the fact that we are able to do amazing things. Episode 56, Dan Blanchard came on, and he was like one of those high energy guys talking about adversity as a building block for leadership. And in there, again, listen for what he had to say about helping your children build success skills. And so he talked about doing it in small ways and how people, as kids deal with adversity, as kids deal with difficulties, they are building the skills that help them to be resilient and help them to be successful later in life. Episode 57, Corey Poirier came on, and he talked about branded talks. And in there, he mentioned, and this is something that had come up in a previous episode, the idea of having a personal mission statement. And he talked about why it's so important and also gave some tips on how to create one. Episode 58 was my almost twin in quadriplegia. Tiffany Carlson came on. She and I were actually injured within 5 days of each other in 1993. She's also a quad, but she talked about how to leverage your online writing skills both for education, for credibility, and also for money. Episode 59, Nicole Neer was on talking about building a resilient business. And she really, I thought, in a very cool way, talked about how dealing with 4 chronic health issues provided her with some of the important character traits that she needed to learn as she became an entrepreneur. Episode 60, my friend Sherry Dunleavy was on, and Sherry, I thought, it was a really great story, talked about how she lost a child, and in that grieving experience, she was looking for resources that weren't there. So she took and created those resources for others. I thought it was amazing how when she found something that was lacking in her life, rather than being upset about that, she said, I want to provide something that will fill in this gap for other people who are going through similar circumstances. An excellent phenomenon and a challenge for all of us to, instead of turning inward, to turn outward. And when we see something that we need, we can understand someone else probably needs this too, and how do I help them and fill in that lack in their lives. Episode 61, Bonnie Artman Fox came on and talked about how you carry your experiences with you from your entire life. So even when you are in an office setting, when you're in a work environment, the way that you handle conflict likely comes from the way that conflict was handled in your family when you were a kid. And your role there is likely influenced by how things went when you were growing up. Episode 62, Stephen Wilcox came on and he was talking about crowdfunding. He has a chair that has been designed for outdoors people and for, going hiking and beaching and all of the different things. And he talked about this important fact: if you're going to do something and use crowdfunding, setup is the key to make it successful. And he also explained how that setup process worked. Episode 63, Casey Stubbs came on to talk about trading and stock market trading. And it was really cool to hear him talk about how his strategies are applicable whether you are young or whether you are old. It talked about his daughter and how she's using his investment strategies. Episode 64, Shannon Tashney came on and talk about how your brand defines who your customers are. And I thought it was really interesting. As you define your brand, it helps you define your customers and then to target your marketing towards them. In addition, she also made it a very clear point to not let your business consume your life. Episode 65, Sean Walchef, he was on to talk about digital storytelling as a way to grow your business. And one of the things that I thought was really cool in what he had to say was, don't be afraid to ask for help. Episode 66 was the American Thanksgiving episode, and Donna Kozik came on to talk about gratitude. And she has a gratitude community project that she's working on. It was excellent. It's a reminder that different people have different things to be grateful for, but all of us, every single one of us, have something for which we should be and can be grateful. Episode 67, Caitlin Studi came on to talk about growing your reach online. And in there, one of the ways that she talked about was using review marketing. And review marketing is a concept I had not heard of before, but as she explained it, it made a whole lot of sense. And I thought, what a great way to grow your business and to really establish your business as an entity online. Episode 68, Alex Miner came on and talked about video marketing. I thought one of the most important distinctions that he made was the difference between a Facebook boost and Facebook advertising. Episode 69, Mary Strawn came on with the analogy of how marketing is like a lamp. And in there, one of the concepts was this: the importance of understanding who you are and understanding what your business is about. And as you understand who you are and what your business is about, that is going to be what ultimately will guide you in your marketing and in being successful with your business. Episode 70, Richard Walsh, the author of Escaping the Owner Prison, was talking about how business can be something that entraps you as the business owner. And his concept of starting with the exit strategy really resonated with me, that you've got to figure out where do you want to go with your business and what will a successful business look like. And once you have that, that's really going to be the guiding principle that helps you move forward in growing your business and always striving to reach that exit point. Episode 71, Alicia May came on, and in this day and age of virtual events and in this experience of Zoom fatigue, she talked about creating amazing virtual events. And in there, she gave some real creative strategies for how to avoid Zoom fatigue, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Episode 72, Carmelo Montenegro was talking about doing marketing on a shoestring budget. And in there, one of the concepts that she talked about was being an educator and providing value to your clients, providing value to the people that you serve, and how, as you share education, that is one of the ultimate ways in which you can be of service to your clients. Episode 73, Dolores Hirschman was on, and she's talked about identifying your business's cornerstone idea. What does your company do? And once you have that, that's going to help you identify your target market, and it's going to help you to engage with them, and it's going to be helpful in understanding and driving all of your marketing, all of your business decisions come from that cornerstone idea. What does your business actually do?